this bomb. And not only Israel, we as well, with the new missile systems the Iranians have. It's not just a local issue anymore. I mean, these missiles, they reach Europe now. So it's a question which concerns all of us. But it still today helps me that I always, when I talk about these countries, I still see my friends, my Iranian friend, my Israeli friend, my Palestinian friend as well. We had a student and not an Arab and Asian world, and it makes all the difference. So programs like this which not only boost understanding for each other, but also creates the tolerance we also need in politics. And we must always avoid nationalism. That's the start of the biggest problems. The world is getting closer. Globalization brings us so close together that an issue somewhere in the world is also our issue today. And I think that is important. And I studied international business, but I always took also minors in international relations. And I think that was studying in international schools was for me the start of being interested in politics. Before that, I mean, I was always, I read the newspapers or so, but politics was not a professional goal. And for many years I worked in business or in the university. But when I came back from England to Germany, because I met all the students, my friends from all over the world, I said, well, these politicians, they influence my life so much. So I better become a politician myself as well. So I can influence at least part of it myself as well, and not just complain what they do, but be part of it. And from the beginning, when I became member of the parliament in 2002, they give you three choices. They said, in which committee do you want to work? 1, 2, 3. And in all three, I said, Foreign Affairs Committee. I said, Harald, you are new and young, and this is not the usual case. Normally, the old buddies, they go to the foreign. I said, no, I think it's important that also for a small country like Germany, it's that we keep good relations with the world and that we do promote understanding, and I want to do this. And so at the end, I ended up in the Foreign Affairs Committee until just the last election, because a good friend of mine, he became the Minister of Economic Cooperation and Development during Nibel, and he called me that night when he heard that he would become the minister, and he had no clue about international politics. He said, Harald, I need your help. So now I'm doing more development work with developing countries. But to tell you the truth, in the Foreign Affairs Committee, you meet all the big guys and the big leaders of the world and so. But if you really want to change something, go also in the developing countries. It's wonderful. That's whatever you do, you see an immediate, often positive effect, and that is what that is wonderful, and I love it. And so it helped me again. I think groups like this create tolerance, and you must talk with each other a lot and learn about all these new countries, and be open-minded. I've learned, before that I always thought, Germany is the center of the world. That's how one grows up and say, well, it's the most wonderful country. But if you go abroad, you suddenly see, well, Germany is nice and interesting, but it's a small spot in the world, and there are bigger powers. And then you talk to Muslims, for example. And you always think, our religion is the best and most tolerant and so. But if you hear how they think and how they tick, suddenly you try to feel like him or her and say, well, they have their views too, and they're good points. And but maybe I do not agree to all of them, but I have to accept that they think that way. And I should never try to, through debates, we can try to change their point of view. But never by force. And I think that's also a tolerant society must be strong enough to really also tolerate other influences as well. Short question, long answer. I'm sorry.
Okay. Next question. You're a member of the Committee of Foreign Education and Culture, and also member of the German Arabic League. And you already mentioned some examples to successfully integrate immigrants. Could you also give some examples of concrete policies which have been introduced in an effort to successfully integrate immigrants from other countries into German society?
Well, first, the committee you mentioned, that is for international and educational and cultural affairs. That is what Germany does outside of Germany. We have our own cultural committee within the Bundestag, our parliament, which deals only with internal questions, and they do a lot all these projects. But our idea of, for example, the Goethe Institutes or the DAAD programs or the Humboldt Foundation and all that is always to bring societies together, and only by that we will generate more tolerance. And when you people have come to Germany and see my country, I mean, you have done a big step. A step many other young people or people in your age don't do. They sit in their country and they have their cliches about the other country and the stereotypes. And I think it's important to, if they don't come, at least we should provide more programs there, let's say through Goethe Institutes and others, so at least they have a chance to have a little window to see, how Germany or Europe works, and maybe then we can gain more interest. They gain more interest to come to see our country as well. So here we try to do a lot. You mentioned not the Arab League, it's the Deutsch Arabische Freundschaftsgesellschaft. It's a club. Originally they wanted to do more business between Europe or Germany and the Arab world, and then they asked me whether I would become also a founding member. They started it, and then I said, well, also I have some business background too, but for me the key to success is always if we boost educational exchange programs. So that's, I said I will become member, but we have to do a lot there. And that's what we do. I mean, we try to bring more Arab students to Germany as well, and vice versa. So what we do with many other countries in the world, we have to do even more with the Arab world, with the Muslims as well, to generate more interest. And that works quite well. And the same, we do a lot already also with Israel. So it's not only the Arab part, but also Israel. And we have our extremely good and close links with Israel. So I don't have to mention it extra. But I think we have to do a lot also in Arab countries to create more understanding between our two societies.
Is it because of this, perhaps, that despite the fact that you spent a very important part of your life in the United States, you are on the record, as far as I understand, that when you are asked whether you feel German or American, you say that you feel European, rather than putting emphasis on your Germanship. Mm-hmm. Is it because you were born there, or because you are now involved in many multicultural activities within the parliament or outside the parliament, that you see the world different from a German who did not get in touch with other cultures?
Maybe it's a bit of all, but I think the foundation of my tolerance and openness was set by my parents. First of all, they both spent, my father, he had to go to war, he was 15, he was a boy. And my grandfather, he had to go through 2 wars. And at the end of the war, my father more or less lost his youth to the war. And then he said, well, that's not a country I want to live, and I want to study somewhere else. So he first got into Switzerland, but then he got a chance to go to the US to first study, and later became a professor for theology and philosophy. And in the US, he met my mother. It was at Columbia University. And my mother, she comes from a poor family in Schwäbisch Hall, that is in the southern part of Germany. And it was due to a successful German industrialist who gave a lot of scholarships to Germans, to young Germans. He wanted to get as many Germans out of the destroyed kind of Germany into a free world, and so they should learn more about democracy and all these ideas. And so that's how also both my parents are German, but they met in the US and they started their family and they had their reproductive phase. I'm the youngest of 5, and then they said, well, but the kids should not only see America but also Europe and Germany. And so we more or less grew up also in Germany. And here, my father he doesn't live anymore, but so often he taught us, you know, to really be tolerant. And he brought, you know, the world into our little home in Germany. It's not a little home; it's an old medieval castle, but it's in the really tiny little, in this tiny little village, and it was so wonderful. And I remember he once. There was it was during the Shah times, and we had students from Iran. There was some problems, and I think it was a Persian princess. I don't know, one or his sisters, or I don't know. And then we kids would go there, and then we were so unhappy because she wouldn't wear a crown. And then the next time when it was remember we were kids at first, or you know, other people from all over the world, and he was extremely tolerant always. And I remember when I was one of our, I think a long staff member who has been with us for many years, and he died, and everybody said, oh, he had a lung problem, and he said, no, Harald, he died on AIDS. And then it was long ago. It was just the beginning of AIDS, but he would immediately, you know, talk very openly about it and say, well, here we are facing a new problem, and that's, you know, not just, you know, it was always this very open-minded person, especially my father, my mother as well. My parents would have never tolerated if we would have talked negative about a friend without a good reason. I mean, if the friend would have beaten me up and I hit back, then he said okay, but not because for some subjective reasons. He would immediately tell us, no, that's not how you should live together. And so I think it's my parents who started it at least.
No, but that's the most important, I think, that open-minded attitude from the outset. Mr. Leibrecht, thank you very, very much for the lecture as well as the interview. I think we've all benefited greatly from your insights and your perspectives, and we really appreciate the honor you gave our institute by coming here today.
Thank you very much. It was a wonderful discussion, as usual, always too short. I'm sorry, and again, sorry that I came late. It was due to the traffic, and I come back anytime you want me. And
thank you very much, and we're looking forward to welcoming you back soon.
Thank you very much.
Maybe do a photo as well.
Sure, yes.
If you'd like to grab a quick cup of coffee, we'll start in a few moments, I think, with the next lecture. So maybe a quick cup of coffee, and then we'll reconvene upstairs.
So,
Okay, and let's take a photo maybe